Ma'am, can we start now?
I think you can.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, I welcome you all to this another episode of a lovely series of webinars that we are organizing with Association of Indian Universities. So, today is our fifth episode. We started the journey sometime in the month of August, and it's been wonderful so far. So the thing is, how these webinars are happening is like we select a topic and we talk to all students and we present you some part of your history or about the country. And after this, we have a quiz which follows these webinars, and the children or the student or the participants who attempt that, the first 1,000 winners are given souvenirs, and we also do a kind of lucky dip, and we organize a first group of such students. We took them to Nagaland in the month of November. So the ministry organizes an annual event called International Tourism Mart, and the 50 children who were the winners from first two episodes of this webinar were taken over there, and they were shown around different sites of Nagaland. They were introduced to the culture, and one of the sites that these students visited was the War Memorial of Kohima. So today our episode is basically focused on this war memorial at Kohima and its history, how important it is in the Indian history, the Japanese invasion, and the INA. So there is a lot to talk about it, but for that we have two wonderful speakers with us today who will be talking about it. The first is Dr. Ajay Singh. He is the president of Tourist Guide Federation of India. Mr. Singh is based in Varanasi, and he has, as far as his credentials goes, he has done his PhD from Banaras Hindu University about the role of Varanasi in national movement in from 1905 to 1920. And the second speaker for today is Mr. Samik Ray. Mr. Samik Ray is a regional level guide. He also is the recipient of National Tourism Award in 2017 in the category of Best Tourist Guide. In fact, both Mr. Ray and Mr. Singh, they are known speakers. We have done webinars with them under other, the ministry also conducts another series of webinars under Dekho Apna Desh. So we had chance of listening from Mr. Ray about the history of Calcutta, and Dr. Singh spoke about the Buddhist heritage of India. So today we'll be talking about the history of Kohima and especially the War Memorial of Kohima. So with this, I hand it over to Mr. Samik Ray, who will be taking you to this wonderful journey of Kohima. Thank you.
Honorable, Honorable Bharti Madam, Pankaj Madam, Motushi Madam, Dr. Ajay Singh, and distinguished guests and audience. Namaskar. Good afternoon. In fact, today, Mr. Ajay Singh and me will present an interactive webinar about this Kohima War Memorial. For the first time, I would like to ask Ajay ji why we have chosen this topic. Ajay ji.
Dada, that's wonderful. You ask a very valid question. Why we chosen this wonderful topic? Actually, last week of November, ITM was organized by Ministry of Tourism at Kohima, and I was also invited there. And being a student of history and as a researcher, when I visited this Kohima War Memorial, so I decided to ask Brar Madam for a wonderful webinar over this beautiful monument. Because when we are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, so this monument, especially this monument, should be focused. Because if you go back to history and if you see the Kohima War, it was not just the war between Allied or the Axis forces, not only Japanese or the British, it was a war between, the Subhash Chandra Bose INA and British Indian Army as well, which played a major role in the history of independence. If you go to the period basically during the Second World War, so this was the period when INA pushed the British Army on the back foot. And later, then the Prime Minister of the Britain was Clement Attlee, and later he accepted it, that it was not only the non-violence movement of India, but also the Subhash Chandra Bose Army, which was known as INA, Indian National Army, Azad Hind Fauj, played the major role, which made the British to think that we should stay in India or we should leave. Lord Attlee, later in his interview, he accepted that. In Kohima War, we felt that without, the Indian assistance, we cannot rule over India. And now in India, Azad Hind Fauj is playing major role. And this is the time we have to quit. So then I decided to choose, this monument, Kohima War Memorial, and a line which was written there. Dada, you will focus on this line later, but now just I am going to read this line. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. What a beautiful line. So when we came back, so we also decided to tell our distinguished guest and the participant who is participating in this beautiful webinar that the word from that battleground, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. So it could be a wonderful topic. So that's why I chose this webinar as a webinar topic for today. Dada.
Well, Ajayji, you said rightly. The topic of today's webinar is for you tomorrow, we gave our today. Do you know, this webinar makes our school exam days back, as writing amplification of some phrase or quotes in the literature papers were compulsory in those days. And after long years, today, we have to amplify the phrase, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. What once used, Ajayji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So what once used as the part of an epitaph of lower memorial at the Kohima War Cemetery. And on the screen, you can see this is the lower memorial part. Actually, the epitaph says, when you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. John Maxwell Edmonds is credited with authorship of this epitaph in Kohima War Cemetery. He was an English classicist, poet, and dramatist, and the author of several celebrated martial epitaphs. This epitaph was inspired by an epigram of the Greek poet Simonides to the fallen at the battle of Thermopylae of Greece, in fact. And the epitaph is apparently very simple, but it touches the mind of every visitors in different way, in visitors' individual geopolitical context, such as Indians considered sacrifices at Kohima War was a crucial prelude to the independence of India. It was, in fact, the beginning of the victory in the Second World War to the visitors from the country of the Allied powers. And to the Japanese, it prevented, they considered this war as the war which prevented further loss of their country in the war. And another party, Naga people. These Naga people, they, after the battle, they thought that it was a great relief for them from the Japanese atrocity. Indeed, can you show the next slide? The monument visible on the screen is Kohima War Lower Memorial. And the next slide, you can see the Kohima War Upper Memorial. In fact, two memorials. This is the upper memorial, and above is the last one we have seen. Was the lower memorial. In between the lower memorial and upper memorial, there is a sloping land, and on the sloping land, you could see a lot of graves of the people who died in the Kohima battle. And particularly not Japanese people who died. In fact, the people who died in the Indo-British British Army, Indian and British Army, in fact. And the battle holds significance similar to that of Stalingrad battle. During the World War, since both ensured that Kohima War and the Stalingrad battle, both ensured the retreat of Axis power. Kohima battle initiated the retreat of Axis power from the Asian sector or Asia-Pacific sector, and Stalingrad battle from Europe. Kohima battle fought between 4th April and 22nd June 1944, while Battle of Stalingrad was between 23rd August 1942 and 2nd February 1943. Indeed, Stalingrad battle, when it made the Axis battle to retreat. And in the meantime, Japanese in the Asian sector, Asia-Pacific sector, they were still, though retreat started after the Stalingrad battle in the Western sector, in Asian sector, it was not. Japanese further went on. They attacked Kohima. In fact, they wanted to invade India. There is a slide, I think, can you show the slide with the why Japanese is involved in the World War? Just a minute. You can see the map. This was the map. The red dots were the line of Japanese attack. They started to attack from the Arakan area down, and one from Burma. They entered into Imphal and then took the Imphal Kohima road, went to Kohima. And in the map, you can see the Garrison Hill. That was the exact place where originally the then Deputy Commissioner Residence House and the tennis court area of that house located, where the battle was fought. In fact, Captain Rowland, he in his memoir told there were Japanese coming, and night after night there was a fight at that Garrison Hill, at the tennis court, hand to hand, and a lot of people were died there. In fact, from the Japanese side and from the Indo-British side, we'll tell you the statistics later on. In fact, the whole memorial was made by the British government after their victory. In fact, in 1946, the whole area, the Garrison Hill, the tennis court area, they made that as a cemetery. It was designed by Mr. Colin St. Clair and established in 1946 by the British government. As I have told you, two memorials are there, so, and the graves in between. Very interesting is why Japanese involved in the Second World War. And Japanese involved in the Second World War. Can you please show the short slide of that, why Japan is involved? After that was in fact, the slide, next slide, I think so. That is the location of Kohima. Next slide, please. So Japanese involved in the battle, in fact, in the Second World War, because they thought they were superior. And by that time, Japan was controlled by the military. And they wanted to curb the Occidental domination in the Asia Pacific resources or the Asia Pacific area. So that's why they involved in the Second World War. In fact, why they invaded India? There are two ways they invaded. One is called Hago, that is the way from the Arakan area they started to move. In fact, why Hago operation started? Hago operation started because they wanted to control all Chittagong. And another is the Yugo operation from the Burma side towards Imphal and then to Kohima. And in this period, before coming to Kohima, they went to Andaman, and that was before 1942. They conquered Andaman and ruled for some times. Then Subhash Chandra Bose requested them to hand over the whole Andaman Island to INA. They had handed over, and on 30th December, I think, 1943, the first independent India's flag hoisted by INA on the land of Andaman Islands. In fact, Andaman Islands and Arakan area, to control Chittagong and to control the area which we say that is very important is Calcutta, because they wanted to control from Calcutta up to Kohima. If they do it, then they could control the plain and the hill area, and then they went on towards Delhi. So that was their original plan. That's why Japanese also bombarded Calcutta in the, what I say, in 1942-43, both. And Japanese is also wanted to invade India because they wanted to support INA in its mission to oust British control or British colonial power from India. So that was their strategy. And they finally came to Kohima at the 4th April 1944, as I have told you. And there were many people died, in fact, in Kohima war, from the side of Indian British, 4,064 people died, and from the British, from the Japanese side, it was 5,764. But among these 4,064 people, there were some missing, some died, some wounded. The people died more or less 1,042. About these people, there were 6 Hindus, there were British, there are 5 Canadians and 3 Australians over there. And for them, the war memorial was made. In fact, the meaning of this word, significance of this word was being perceived by different people in different way. For the British, then the significance was very important because they made Axis power to retreat from Asian sector. For the Japanese, they lost in the victory, and they had a lot of financial, economic, and military, what I say, cruciality all over the next 2-3 decades. For Indians, it accelerated the Indian independence. In fact, I would like to ask Ajay ji. Ajay ji, can you please tell us about the significance of this battle from the different point of view, from the British INA and also from Nagas, if it is possible?
Dada, first, I want to focus over INA and Subhash Chandra Bose, because without knowing about Subhash Chandra Bose and INA, we cannot, explain this whole incident. When the Subhash Chandra Bose was prisoned by the British rulers, and after that Subhash Chandra Bose escaped from there by just hiding his identification. He went to Afghanistan, and from Afghanistan he went to Russia. But in Russia, what he felt that they are not going to help Subhash Chandra Bose against British. So from there, anyhow, he managed to go to Germany. And in Germany, again, he met with the Hitler. But what he felt that Hitler doesn't have very good image of the Indian. And in a meeting, even Subhash Chandra Bose objected over that, and finally the Hitler, had to excuse. But anyway, Hitler wanted to use Subhash Chandra Bose against Russia. So then the Subhash Chandra Bose, he decided not to stay in Germany, and he left Germany and came to Singapore. And in Singapore, then the Japanese Prime Minister, we have also the slide, we can see. Can you change the slide more? So then he came to Singapore, and if we go to the history of INA, one thing also we must know that Azad Hind Fauj, it was third time, established by Subhash Chandra Bose. Before that, twice there were attempts to establish the Azad Hind Fauj. Like first time in 1915 in Afghanistan, Raja Mahendra Pratap Singh, he led an army, and the name of that army was also Azad Hind Fauj. But he could not get succeeded, and finally it was flopped. So, and then the Ras Bihari Bose, Gill, and others in 1st September 1942, they also, with the same name, they established the INA, Indian National Army, Azad Hind Fauj. And finally, in 1943, when the Subhash Chandra Bose joined them, so the Raj Bihari Bose, that time he transferred the whole power to the Subhash Chandra Bose and declared him as a commander-in-chief of the Azad Hind Fauj. And from there, if you see, Japanese Prime Minister himself in Singapore, when the Subhash Chandra Bose was addressing Indian Army, so that time the Japanese Prime Minister himself joined him, and he assured there, we will help the Azad Hind Fauj to attack over British India and to achieve the goal of the independence. So after that, you can see the Subhash Chandra Bose moved from there, came to Burma border. But meanwhile, one incident also happened which played the major role, that Andaman Nicobar Islands was given to the INA by Japanese, because Japanese they took it from the Britishers. So that was given to the INA, and INA established their government, Azad Hind Sarkar, and Prime Minister and even the Commander-in-Chief and Rashtrapati, the President, was declared. All the three posts was under Subhash Chandra Bose. So if you see, Ji.
I think at that time Subhash Chandra Bose renamed Andaman Islands, one island as Swaraj Deep and another island is Sahid Deep. Well,
you are right.
Continue.
Yeah, he renamed that island and declared there the Azad Hind Sarkar. And at that time also the Italy, Japan, Korea, China, they all gave, the kind of, they identify, oh, this is, we are recognizing this Azad Hind Sarkar. So the British, it gave a, the major effect over the British ruler, that not only Subhash Chandra Bose, other countries are also joining INA. And the Indians, Swang Sevak, who were living in Burma or Singapore or in Korea, they also joined INA. The same time, 60,000 prisoners who were basically the British army, but prisoned by the Japanese troops. So the Japanese government, they, liberate them. And they, those peoples, they joined. You can see 40 to 60,000 prisoners, they joined the INA. And they become the backbone of the INA Azad Hind Fauj. And in the war of Kohima, if you see, so normally people think that it was war between the British and Japanese, but not. If you will ask me, I will tell you both sides. If you see the army, both sides, if you see the sepoy, they were Indians. Of course, commander, the majors, the officers, they were British, they were Japanese. But
Ajay, 1 minute. Can Motoshi Madam please stop the sharing? Well, Ajay.
So
yes.
that time, if you see, not only the British or the Japanese, they lost the life. Majority who lost the life, they were Indian, and majority who fought in the battleground, they were Indian.
And that is why, Ajay, British found that from the both sides, most majority were the Indians. So they realized the power of Indian military and the Indian soldiers, and that made them, after the Kohima War, gradually decide to leave India, to quit India. Am I right?
Very much right, right, Dada. Actually, do you know that time also there was another incident happened, and that incident was, the revolt in British Indian Navy.
Yes, and not only British Indian Navy, that was in 1946. Also before that, in southern part of India, there were small revolts all over southern part of India, and non-violent movement went on in the northern part of India. In Bengal, there were lot of extremist movement. So these things were inspired by the INA move from Burma to Kohima and from Andaman to this site. That's why, as you have mentioned before, Clement Attlee, the then Prime Minister, said that the INA's role in the freedom movement was quite important. And it is not a small contribution. It was one of the major reasons why the British government had decided to leave India.
You are
Yes. Yes,
very
Rajat.
much
Please, please,
right,
please.
Dada. Even G.D. Bakshi, the General G.D. Bakshi, he wrote a book, Bose, the Indian Samurai.
Yeah.
If you go to that book and read about the statement of British Prime Minister Lord Dudley, and he very clearly accepted that now this is the time. We realize that now this is the time to quit India, because they are Subhash Chandra Bose and Azad Hind Fauj is knocking the door. Actually, if you see, strategically, the Kohima, it was gateway to the eastern part of the India. If they break the war of, the wall of Kohima, so that then the Dimapur, and from Dimapur, it was very easy to attack over Kolkata, Chitgaon. So, and once they also realized that, actually, he also accepted it, that INA create a fear among the British ruler that when INA and Subhash Chandra Bose will enter into the plain area of India, so the mass people will join them.
Yeah, that's
Then
right.
even
That's
it
right.
will become too difficult to took our, the British troops out of India.
Yeah. So they became panicked, in fact, and they wanted to leave India with honor. That is why, and in fact, Kohima, the victory in the Kohima War helped them to do that. That
Dada,
leave India
Dada,
with honor.
yeah, Dada,
Yes.
P.B. Chakravarti, then Honorable P.B. Chakravarti, then he was Chief Justice of Kolkata
Yeah.
High Court, and he, submitted a report to the British, the government, because they asked him to submit this report, and this report was known as a weekly intelligence summary report. And in that weekly intelligence summary report, P.V. Chakravarti very, very clearly mentioned that once the Subhash Chandra Bose and the INA will enter in the plain area of India, so it will become very difficult for the British Indian Army as well. Now there is only revolt in the Indian Navy, but there is there will be the big revolt in Indian Army, and then it will very difficult. Then it will be very difficult to control that situation. So that's why actually later, when in
fact, Ajay
1966 he came to Kolkata and he was the guest of Chakravarti, P.V. Chakravarti, who was then the governor of Bengal. So in that time he accepted that not only the non-violence movement of India, but the INA, Azad Hind Fauj, make us panic, and we decided to quit India soon.
In fact, after that Kohima battle, when they have seen the power of INA, then in British cabinet and as well as in the British Parliament, they have discussed about that, how they could give India independence. They wanted to leave India. Yes, a lot of people, they will say that, the historians also said that it was very, very difficult for England to continue such big country, and the big British Indian Army to maintain need a lot of money. They were in economic crisis. But in fact, these were the apparent cause. The original cause, they were threatened by the Indian mass movement and as well as by the Indian Azad Hind Fauj, the power of Azad Hind Fauj. They
Dada,
were panicked.
yeah, Dada, in Azad Hind Fauj, Subhash Chandra Bose, if you see, is visionary. He made 3 regiments One regiment was Mahatma Gandhi regiment.
Yeah.
And the second regiment was
four regiments.
Nehru regiment. Third regiment was on his name. And the fourth regiment, here you are very much right, the fourth regiment was Maharani Lakshmi Bai regiment.
Yeah.
And that time, it's a more than 10,000 women, they joined that Maharani Lakshmi Bai regiment. And when the Japanese, they lost this battle, and they asked the Subhash Chandra Bose that we are giving you the safe passage, you go from here to the Japan. But Subhash Chandra Bose, he mentioned there, yes, he don't want to leave. He mentioned there, until the sisters are here in battleground, so I don't want any safe passage. At first, we want safe passage for this Maharani Lakshmi Bai brigade, then I will leave. So
yes, that's right. That was the saying of the true leader, in fact.
The true leader.
Yeah, and Ajayji, we can go back to the again Kohima War. The impact of Kohima War, of course, we got independence. The independence accelerated, but if it would happen in reverse way, means Japanese victory and then INA proceeded towards the plain. That means we did not have to wait for the independence till 1947. To me, maybe by 1945, everything
finished.
Was settled. Yeah, finished or would be settled.
Yeah, you are right.
Before 1947.
Yeah.
In fact, before 1947, when Attlee and other people from the cabinet sent Mountbatten, they requested Mountbatten to give independence to India, make the process of independence without dividing India, if it is possible. We also knew that Mountbatten tried, but he failed. So India divided, as you know. And Attlee, in one part, on letter, he told that he wanted the whole Bengal, means today's Bangladesh and West Bengal, together should be separated from India. As an independent country.
Yes, and Dada, even during the Kohima War, they also promised, the British, they also promised to the Nagas that after war we will give you like a free nation, Nagaland. Yeah, Nagaland free.
In fact, Nagas joined with the British. There are few reasons, because Nagas were against the Japanese. Not at the first point, when they found that Japanese atrocity over them, and specifically when Japanese, they had finished their all food, stored food, then they ransacked the Nagas villages, and they manhandled the Naga people brutally, brutal atrocity over the Nagas. They looted all the food and crops and the animals for their military people. So that had an adverse effect on Naga mind. Secondly, Nagas had established their link with outside the world, because before British, Nagaland was isolated. Only the British made their link with the rest of the world. So it was another thing, another reason why they were with the British. And maybe religion, because missionary activities, they became Christian, and that was another link. So many reasons which made Naga to be with the British. Am I right?
Dada, also the Japanese troops, the image, it was the brutal image. What they have done in Korea, what they have done in China. So no need to mention here. So the image of the Japanese troops was the brutal image. And when they entered into Kohima, And the British, they plant the fear among the Nagas that what they are doing with, they have done with, the Chinese and the
China,
Korean.
Korea.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like that, they plant the fear.
No, it was tactful, I say. But very interesting, if you look back to the history, any victorious troops, they became brutal to the people whom they were subjugated. So it happened always, all through the history. So that's a very interesting point. In fact, what we can say that the impact of Kohima War, one from the Indian side accelerated the independence and made British realize the military power and the power of INA, and also the urge for freedom among the Indian mass people. So they realize it. Secondly, their economic crisis, they could not maintain it, the whole British Indian Army, and to give the security to India under the British. So that's why they have decided. And they promised to the Naga some. I can say one thing is very interesting when Japanese attacked the then resident and governor resident of Kohima did not want to leave Kohima because he wanted to give the safety to the Naga people. That's why they became very much attached with the British, and they thought after the independence, British will give Nagaland as a, or recognize Nagaland as a separate country. As you know, even after that, it was continued after independence, their Naga sentiment about their own country. Now they were with us, they are with us, and it is one of the Indian states. Very interesting. And Japanese side, they failed, they went back, and they had the rise of China and Korea in the Asian sector as a important power. So all these things happened in the during the after the Kohima War in the Asia Pacific sector. But what I want to say, in fact, the people who are going for their holiday, I would request the people to go to Kohima and try to see and reveal the hidden history of Kohima. I would request all of you to make your plan to visit Kohima, and must visited place is that Garrison Hill. Just go and stand. Fill of those days hand-to-hand fight between Japanese and the Indian British Army.
Garrison Hill, even it is situated in the center of Kohima.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful place, and also the war memorial. It's all the three steps of the war memorial: lower part, middle part, and the upper part. And you can see the grip of the soldiers who lost their life in that battle. It's also the very nice place, and you can visit that part. Even not only that part, if people they want, they can go to the Kohima, and especially if you are going there in the month of December. Every year from 1st of December to 10th of December, they have Hornbill Festival. And Hornbill Festival now it is becoming, like a world festival. The tourists from every corner of the country, every corner of the world, they are coming to join that, the Hornbill Festival, and that is really amazing. This year, I was part of the visitors of Hornbill Festival there, And really, it is amazing, Dada. And if you go there, you feel that that is really another world. And
Yeah, that's
also,
right.
yeah, also the Naga village, if you go to the Naga villages, even now they maintain their tradition, their culture, their history. It's amazing. If you go to the Naga villages, they maintain everything.
And in fact, very few Indians, except Hornbill Festival, very few Indians visiting Nagaland. And my experience is, I went to Nagaland with the Royal British Legion Group quite a few times. And this cemetery is maintained by the Commonwealth War Cemetery, in fact. They organize this kind of groups from the families, descendants of the Second World War military cadres. So every year before pandemic, of course, there were Royal British Legion Group coming to India. They are visiting Imphal and Kohima War Cemetery. Even I had remembered that they visit the Calcutta Commonwealth War Cemetery in Bhavanipur area also. So this is very interesting about the military and the local history, as you said. And I would request the people to visit
Yeah.
to see the Nagaland culture, Naga cultures, the scenic nature and history, all mingling together. Yes, Ajayji.
Dada, I think now we are running out of time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, running out of time. Otherwise, there is a lot of things to discuss about beautiful Nagaland, and also the people who is planning to go there, Kohima. Good hotel facilities are there. You can have the up to 4-star category hotel. Some hotel is also like a 5-star category, but you can have just only maximum 40 room in a hotel, because most of the hill stations, they have small places to build the hotel, not the big area. So, but home stay, especially in Kohima, is also beautiful, and the people can enjoy the home stay over there. Nice people, nice locality, nice atmosphere, everything is there. So now we should wind up because time is running out, and we request to Pankaj ma'am to give the the vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ajay. Thank you very much, both Ajay and Mr. Samik Reji. You spoke beautifully about the Nagaland, and I think the people who were not thinking of visiting Nagaland now will start thinking of visiting Nagaland. But this homestay and all which you're talking about Nagaland, is there some website from which they can find out that where all the homestay facilities are there, or some Airbnb site or something? Is there a specific site for Nagaland?
Yes, ma'am. State government of Nagaland, they have a site, and if you go to that site, you can find these all the facilities. And also during ITM, they share it with the ministry.
Okay. And one or two questions which were on the chat, like who gave this line for your tomorrow we gave our today. So who had given this line?
I already told. It is about Edmund, who was the famous classicist and dramatist and poet, who had written this, but he was inspired by a Greek epigram written by Simonides. So
that Greek epigram was written on something which is in Greece or something?
No.
Yeah. We are not able to hear you.
It was originally in Greek. It was translated by Edmund.
Okay.
It was written originally. Can you hear me now? It was written originally in Greek, used in Thermopylae after the fall of Thermopylae War. And Simonides, a Greek man who wrote it. But it was translated by Edmond. Okay. He was a classicist and dramatist for this monument. Very interesting phrase, in fact.
Yes, very good. So I should thank everybody, and especially to the students who will be sort of attempting the quiz which is associated with this program. Maybe this is one of the questions in the quiz also. And the moment you answer all the questions right, you will be eligible for a gift from Ministry of Tourism. And in any case, in the beginning also Bharti was telling that we are running many programs for the winners of these quizzes. So please attempt the quiz. The very lucid and very explanatory, in the very explanatory form, the whole details about the Kohima War Memorial has been indicated by both the experts. Thank you very much. It was really good and eye-opener for me also. Thanks a lot. And to all the students, you know that Association of Indian Universities and Ministry of Tourism, we are collaborating with each other, and for these 12 episodes, this is a 12 episode series. This was the 5th one today. And the earlier ones were on ministry, culture and heritage. One was on mountaineering, one was on the Northeast, one was on employment opportunities in tourism. So like this, we are holding many webinars which are of general interest to the students. So the students take up tourism as a profession also. And also the students should be aware of the rich cultural heritage of India. We want them to see whole of the country. Rather than foreign tourism, first see India. India is so beautiful and so culturally rich. So that is why we are holding this series. After the 12th series, we will be culminating in August 2022. And this is basically for celebrating 75 years of independence of India. So thank you very much. Thanks to Mr. Ray, Dr. Singh, to the students. Do attempt the quiz, do answer all the questions correctly. The questions are basically based on whatever Ajay ji and Samik ji spoke today. It is about Kohima War Memorial. It is about Nagaland. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks to Ministry of Tourism, and thanks to both the experts and all the participants who have participated. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank ma'am.